You find yourself standing at the edge of a platform. The air is cool, the tiles are white, the echoes are soft and distant. This is the London Underground. This is where millions of people pass through every day. This is where the city breathes beneath itself. But there are parts of this place that most people never see. There are stations that closed decades ago. There are tunnels that lead nowhere. There are stories that refuse to fade. You are about to descend into those stories. You are about to walk through the forgotten parts of the underground. You are about to hear the legends that live in the dark. The train arrives, the doors open, you step inside, and the journey begins. You are riding the Northern Line. The train moves through the darkness between stations. The rhythm is steady. The lights flicker occasionally. The other passengers are quiet. You notice something as the train slows. There is a platform outside the window. It is lit. It is tiled in the old style. But the train does not stop. This happens often on the underground. There are many closed stations, many ghost platforms, many places where the trains used to stop but do not anymore. But this platform is different. You can see it clearly. You can see the benches. You can see the old advertisements on the walls. You can see something else. Someone is standing there. Someone is waiting for a train that will not stop. The figure is dressed in clothing from another era. A long coat, a hat. The details are soft. The figure does not move, and then the train passes. And the platform is gone, and you are left wondering if you saw anything at all. This is the legend of the station that never opens. It appears between King's Cross and Euston. It appears late at night. It appears to people who are tired, to people who are alone, to people who are not quite paying attention. Some say the station is a memory, a place that existed once and still echoes in the tunnels. Some say it is a glimpse into another time, a crack in the present where the past seeps through. Others say it is just a trick of the light, a reflection, a hallucination brought on by exhaustion and the hypnotic rhythm of the train. But the figure on the platform, the figure that waits, that part of the story never changes. You lean back in your seat. You close your eyes. You let the train carry you forward. There is a stretch of tunnel between Leicester Square and Covent Garden. It is one of the shortest distances between stations on the entire Underground. Less than 300 yards, less than a minute of travel. But the tunnel feels longer than it is. It feels darker. It feels like something lives there. The legend begins with the drivers, the men and women who operate the trains. They are the first to hear it. A voice, soft, indistinct, coming from the tunnel walls. It does not speak words. Not exactly. It is more like a hum, a murmur, a sound that almost forms language but never quite reaches it. Some drivers report hearing it only once. Some hear it every time they pass through. Some refuse to work that line anymore. Passengers sometimes hear it too. They describe it differently. Some say it sounds like singing. Some say it sounds like crying. Some say it sounds like someone calling a name. But no one can ever make out the words. No one can ever identify the source. The tunnel was built in the early 1900s. It cuts through layers of London that are older than the city itself. Roman foundations, medieval wells, plague pits. Perhaps the voice is a remnant, an echo from something buried long ago, a sound that has nowhere else to go. Perhaps it is the wind moving through cracks in the tunnel walls, the vibration of trains on other lines, the acoustic properties of stone and darkness, or perhaps it is something else, something that lives in the space between stations, something that exists only in transit, only in the brief moments when you are neither here nor there. You are riding through that tunnel now. You are sitting in a carriage that sways gently. You are listening, and you think you hear something. Just for a moment, just beneath the sound of the wheels on the tracks. A voice, soft, indistinct, almost familiar, and then you are in the next station, and the doors are opening, and the sound is gone. There is a story about a A man who boarded a train late one night. A man who fell asleep. He was traveling on the Circle Line, the line that loops around central London, the line that has no beginning and no end. He fell asleep, and he did not wake up. Not at his stop, not at the next stop, not at any stop. The train completed its circuit. It returned to where it began. The man did not wake. The train completed another circuit, and another, and another. The cleaners found him in the early morning, still asleep, still sitting in the same seat. His ticket was still in his hand. But when they tried to wake him, when they touched his shoulder and spoke his name, he did not respond. His eyes were open, but he was not awake. They called for help. They called for medical assistance. They brought him to the surface. They took him to a hospital, but he never woke up. Not fully. He moved through the world in a daze. He spoke when spoken to. He ate when food was placed in front of him. But something essential was missing. Something had been left behind on the train. Something had stayed on the Circle Line. Looping. Forever looping. The legend says that if you ride the Circle Line late at night, if you stay on the train past midnight, if you let it carry you through the full circuit without getting off, you might see him. A man sitting alone, eyes open, expression blank, riding the loop, never getting off, never arriving. Some say he is a warning. A reminder not to lose yourself in the rhythm of the city, not to fall asleep on the journey. Others say he is a ghost, a spirit trapped in the endless circle, a soul that forgot to leave. And some say he is still alive, somewhere, walking through the world. But the part of him that mattered, the part that knew who he was, that part is still on the train, still riding, still looping, still trying to remember where he meant to get off. You feel the train slow. You feel it pull into a station. You feel the urge to stand, to exit, to step onto the platform. And you do. Because you remember. Because you are still awake. For now. There's a station on the Piccadilly line. The name does not matter. The exact location shifts depending on who tells the story. What matters is the glass, the windows that separate the platform from the tunnel. The barriers that keep passengers safe from the tracks. Late at night, when the crowds have thinned, when the last trains are running, some people see a reflection that does not belong to them. A girl, young, pale, dressed in clothing that might be from the 1950s, or the 60s, or some other time that is not quite now. She appears in the glass, standing behind you, just over your shoulder, close enough to touch, but when you turn, when you look behind you, there is no one there, and when you look back at the glass, she is gone. The legend says she was waiting for someone. A long time ago, she was standing on the platform, watching the trains come and go, waiting for someone who never arrived. And she is still waiting, caught in the glass, caught in the reflection between what is and what was. Some people say they have spoken to her, or tried to. They say they turned and spoke to the empty air behind them. They say they asked if she needed help, if she was lost, if she was looking for someone, and they say the glass answered, not with words, but with fog, with condensation that formed letters, that spelled out a name, or a date, or a simple phrase, still waiting. Others say the girl is harmless, a sad presence, a memory that has not yet learned to fade. But some say that if you see her, if you acknowledge her, if you speak to her or about her, she will follow you home, not in body, but in reflection, in mirrors, in windows, in any surface that can show you back to yourself. She will appear there, behind you, over your shoulder, waiting, always waiting. You stand on the platform now. You are alone. The next train is still minutes away. You glance at the glass, you see yourself, tired, rumpled, slightly blurred in the dim light, and for just a moment, just a heartbeat, you think you see something else, a shape, a figure, a face that is not your own. But then the train arrives, and the doors open, and you step inside without looking back. There is a legend about the tunnels, about what happens when the trains stop running, when the underground closes for the night. Maintenance workers walk through the tunnels. They check the tracks. They inspect the signals. They perform the tasks that keep the system running. And sometimes, when they are deep in the tunnels, far from any station, far from any light, they hear footsteps, running footsteps, fast, desperate, coming from somewhere behind them. They turn. They shine their lights. They see nothing. But the footsteps continue, getting closer, getting louder, and then they stop. Suddenly, completely, and the silence that follows is worse than the sound. The legend has many variations. Some say the footsteps belong to someone who died in the tunnels, someone who fell onto the tracks, someone who was struck by a train, someone who is still trying to escape. Others say the footsteps are older, that they belong to something from before the underground existed, something that lived in the tunnels when they were just caves, just cracks in the earth beneath London. The maintenance workers have rules, unofficial rules, rules that are passed from one generation to the next. Do not acknowledge the footsteps. Do not speak to them. Do not run. Because if you run, if you try to escape, the footsteps will match your pace. They will stay just behind you. They will follow you all the way to the surface, and even when you leave the tunnels, even when you go home, even when you are safe in bed, you will still hear them, just outside your door, just in the hallway, just close enough to remind you that something followed you, that something knows where you live. Most workers ignore the footsteps. They continue their inspections, they finish their tasks, they exit the tunnels and go home and try to forget. But some cannot forget. Some request different assignments. Some leave the job entirely. And some, a very few, vanish. They enter the tunnels for a routine inspection, and they do not return. Search parties find nothing. No body, no sign of struggle, no explanation. Just the tracks, and the darkness, and the echo of something that might be footsteps. You are walking through a tunnel now, in your mind. You can feel the walls close around you. You can hear the drip of water. You can smell the stone and metal and age. And you think you hear something. Behind you. Faint. Distant. Footsteps. Running. Getting closer. But you do not turn. You do not run. You simply breathe. And walk. And trust that you will reach the light. Eventually, there is a train that appears on the district line. Late. Very late, after the scheduled service has ended. It runs in the wrong direction. Eastbound trains on the westbound track. Westbound trains on the eastbound track. The destination board is blank. The windows are dark, but the train moves. Silent. Smooth, as though it knows exactly where it is going. Station staff see it sometimes. On the monitors. A train where no train should be. Moving against the flow of traffic, passing through stations without stopping. They report it. They check the logs. They verify that no trains are scheduled, that no maintenance vehicles are in operation, and yet the train appears, on the screens, in the tunnels, real enough to trigger the signals, real enough to be seen. But when investigators check, when they review the footage, the train is gone. The recordings show empty tracks, empty stations. Nothing unusual. Some say the train is a glitch, a phantom signal, a quirk of the computer systems that manage the underground. Others say it is something older, that it is a train from another time, a service that ran decades ago, a route that no longer exists, and the train is still running, still following its old schedule, still carrying passengers who have long since disembarked. The legend says that if you are on a platform late at night, if you are alone, if you wait long enough, the backwards train will arrive, and the doors will open, and you will see inside. Some say the interior is empty. seats covered in dust, lights flickering, advertisements from the 1930s still hanging on the walls. Others say it is full, passengers sitting quietly, reading newspapers, staring at nothing, all of them dressed in styles from another era. And if you step aboard, if you enter the backwards train, you will never reach your destination. The train will carry you deeper into the system, into tunnels that are not on any map, into stations that were abandoned long ago. And when you finally disembark, when you finally find your way back to the surface, you will discover that time has passed differently. What felt like minutes was hours, or days, or years. You stand on the platform, you are waiting. The time is late, the station is empty. You hear the rumble of an approaching train. You see the lights in the tunnel. But something is wrong. The train is coming from the wrong direction. You step back from the edge. You watch as it passes. Silent, dark, windows like blind eyes, and you decide, right then, that you will wait for the next train, the one that runs in the right direction, the one that will take you home. There is a maintenance corridor beneath Holborn Station. It connects old parts of the system to new. It is narrow. It is poorly lit. It is a place where few people go, but those who do, those who walk through that corridor, sometimes see her, a woman, middle-aged, dressed in a uniform that might be from the 1940s. She walks toward you. Her pace is steady. Her expression is calm. And she does not stop. Not for you, not for the wall at the end of the corridor. She walks through it, through solid brick and tile and stone, as though it is not there. The legend says she was a worker, during the war, during the Blitz, when the underground stations were used as shelters. She helped people find safety. She guided them through the tunnels when the bombs fell above. She knew every corridor, every passage, every hidden route. And one night, during a raid, part of the station collapsed. The tunnels caved in. Many people died. But she did not stop working. She continued to guide people, continued to lead them to safety, even as the walls came down around her. And when the dust settled, when the rescuers arrived, they found survivors. People who swore they had been led to safety by a woman in uniform, a woman who walked through rubble as though it were air, who passed through collapsed tunnels as though they were still open, who brought them to safety and then vanished. Some say she died that night, that her body was never found, that she is still guiding people through the corridors she knew so well. Others say she survived, that she lived for many years after, that she told the story herself, of how she had walked through walls, of how she had done the impossible, and that when she finally died, when her time came, she returned to the place where she had been most needed, to walk the corridors, to pass through walls, to remind people that some barriers are only as solid as you believe them to be. You are walking through a corridor now, narrow, dimly lit, the kind of place that feels older than it is. You hear footsteps ahead, steady, calm, coming toward you. You see a figure, a woman, walking with purpose. She does not look at you. She does not slow, and you realize, as she approaches, that there is a wall ahead of her, a dead end. But she does not stop. She reaches the wall, and she keeps walking, and you watch, as she passes through, as she vanishes into solid stone, and you stand there, in the corridor, alone again, wondering if you should follow, wondering if the wall is as solid as it looks. But you do not move. You simply breathe, and wait, and eventually, you turn back, to the route you know, to the path that is marked, to the world where walls remain walls. There is a platform at Embankment Station, Platform 3. It serves the Northern Line, southbound trains, but sometimes. Late at night, people hear a train approaching that never arrives. The sound is clear, the rumble of wheels on tracks, the rush of air through the tunnel, the squeal of brakes. People step forward, ready to board, ready to continue their journey. But no train appears. The sound grows louder, closer, the wind stirs, the platform trembles, and then nothing. The sound stops. The tunnel is silent. The platform is still, and the people waiting. They look at each other. They check the boards. They wonder if they imagined it. But they did not. They all heard it. They all felt it. A train that came, but did not arrive. The legend says it is a train that crashed. Many years ago, in a tunnel nearby, a train that derailed, that struck a wall, that killed everyone aboard, and the train is still running, still trying to reach the station, still trying to complete its journey, but it never arrives. It never can, because the crash happens again, and again, and again. Every time the train enters that stretch of tunnel, every time it builds up speed, every time it approaches the station, the crash happens, the train stops, the journey ends, and the passengers on board, the people who died that day, they are still there, still waiting, still hoping that this time will be different, that this time the train will arrive, that this time they will reach their destination, but it never does, and they never do. And the sound echoes, through the tunnels, through the years, a ghost of a journey that was never completed. Some people say they have seen the train, not the real train, but the shadow of it, a darkness that moves through the tunnel, a shape that almost has form. Others say they have felt it, a rush of cold air, a pressure in their ears, a sensation of something passing very close, very fast, and a very few, say they have been on board. They were standing on the platform, waiting. They heard the train approach. They saw the lights in the tunnel, and they stepped forward, ready to board. And suddenly they were elsewhere, on a train. But not the train they expected. The interior was old. The seats were worn. The lights flickered, and the other passengers. They were silent. They were pale. They stared at nothing. And the person who tells this story, they say they tried to leave. They tried to move to the doors, but the train was moving, and the doors would not open, and they rode, through darkness, through tunnels they did not recognize, past stations that were not on any map, until finally, without warning, they were back, standing on the platform, at Embankment, right where they had started, and only a few seconds had passed, but they felt as though they had been gone for hours. You stand on the platform now. You're waiting for a train. The board says one is approaching. You hear the sound, distant at first, then closer, the familiar rumble, the rush of wind. You step forward. You prepare to board. But something makes you hesitate. Something makes you step back, and the sound grows louder, and louder, and louder, and then it stops, and no train arrives, and you stand there, breathing, grateful that you did not step forward, that you did not board, that you are still here, still waiting, still safe. There is a stretch of tunnel between Bank and Moorgate. It is a straight run, a known distance. A journey that takes a specific amount of time, except when it does not. Drivers report that sometimes, for no reason they can identify. The tunnel takes longer to traverse, much longer. The train moves at the same speed. The signals are green. There are no delays, no obstructions. But the tunnel, it stretches, it extends, it refuses to end. What should take 90 seconds takes 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, or longer, and then, without warning, the train emerges. The station appears. Everything is normal again. Passengers rarely notice. They are reading, or sleeping, or staring at their phones. Time passes strangely in the underground anyway. A few extra minutes go unnoticed. But the drivers notice. They watch the clock. They count the seconds. They know when something is wrong. Some say it is a glitch in perception. that stress or fatigue distorts the sense of time, that the tunnel does not change, only the experience of it does. Others say it is a spatial anomaly, a place where the normal rules of distance do not apply, where geometry bends in ways that should not be possible, and a few say it is intentional, that the tunnel is buying time, delaying arrival, keeping the train in transit for reasons unknown. Perhaps there is danger at the next station, an accident, a threat, and the tunnel, in some inexplicable way, is protecting the passengers. Or perhaps the tunnel itself is hungry, for time, for presence, for the energy of people passing through, and it takes what it needs. A few minutes here, a few minutes there, stolen moments that are never missed. The legend says that the tunnel has always been strange, even before it was a tunnel, when it was just earth and stone beneath the city. There are stories of people getting lost, of walking into cellars or sewers or mines, and emerging hours later, or days later, with no memory of where they had been. The land remembers, the earth remembers, and when the tunnel was cut through, when the trains started running, the strangeness remained, wrapped in tile and concrete, hidden behind electric lights and modern efficiency, but still there, still waiting, still stretching, still taking its time. You are riding through that tunnel now. You feel the train move. You hear the wheels on the tracks. You watch the darkness outside the windows, and you notice that the journey is taking longer than it should, just a little longer, just enough to notice, and you wonder if the tunnel is stretching, if time is bending, if you will ever reach the next station. But then you do. The train slows, the platform appears, the doors open, and you step out, and you continue, and you try not to think about the time you lost, the minutes that vanished, the moments that were taken, gone, into the tunnel, into the dark. There is a phenomenon that happens on the underground, more common than you might think. You board a train, you find a seat, you sit down, and you feel, immediately, uncomfortably, that someone else is already sitting there. Not physically, there is no body, no weight, no warmth, but you feel a presence, a pressure, a sense that the seat is occupied. You stand, you move to another seat. The feeling fades, but you look back at the empty seat, and you know, with absolute certainty, that someone is sitting there now. The legend says these are the passengers who never completed their journeys, who died or disappeared, or simply ceased to exist while traveling on the underground. And they are still there, still riding, still sitting in the seats they occupied when they vanished. You cannot see them, not with your eyes, but your body knows. Your instincts recognize the subtle wrongness of sharing a space with something that should not be there. Some people are more sensitive to this than others. Some feel it as a chill, some as a pressure, some as a vague unease, and some do not feel it at all. They sit in those seats without noticing, without discomfort, without ever knowing they are not alone. The legend says there are specific seats on specific trains that are always occupied, seats that regular commuters learn to avoid. Seats that remain empty even on crowded trains, because people know, even if they do not know why. One such seat is on the westbound Central Line. Always the same carriage, always the same position, by the window, facing forward. People who sit there report feeling watched, feeling judged, feeling as though they are intruding on someone else's space. And some, a very few, report seeing something, just for a moment, in the reflection in the window. A face, pale, indistinct, staring back at them. Not their own face, not any face they recognize. A stranger, sitting in their seat, looking through them, as though they are the ghost. You are sitting on a train now. You chose your seat carefully. Away from the doors, away from the crowded areas. A quiet spot where you can rest, But as soon as you sit, you feel it. The sensation that you are not alone, that someone else is here, that you are sitting on top of something that was here first. You shift, you adjust, you try to ignore it, but the feeling persists, grows stronger, and finally, you stand. You move to another seat. You leave the spot vacant, and as you sit down elsewhere, as you settle into a different space, you glance back at the empty seat, the seat you just left, and for just a moment, just a heartbeat, you think you see someone sitting there, a figure, faint, barely visible, sitting exactly where you were, facing forward, riding the train, and you look away, and you do not look back. There is a station. The name shifts, the location varies, but the story remains the same. A station master, an old man, who worked there for decades, who knew every tile, every sign, every crack in the walls. He lived for the station. He arrived before dawn. He left after dark. He took pride in keeping everything perfect, everything running smoothly, and one day, he did not go home. He collapsed. On the platform. Heart attack, quick, painless. By the time help arrived, he was gone. But the station master, he did not leave. Workers still see him, walking the platform, checking the signs, straightening benches. He wears his uniform, he carries his clipboard, he moves with purpose, and if you approach him, if you try to speak to him, he does not respond. He simply continues his work, his eternal inspection, his endless shift. Some say he does not know he is dead, that he is so dedicated, so devoted, that he cannot conceive of not being there. Others say he knows, that he chose to stay, that he could not imagine existing anywhere else. The station was his life, and now it is his afterlife. Passengers sometimes see him too, late at night, when the crowds have thinned, when the station is quiet, an old man, in an outdated uniform, walking the platform, looking concerned, and if you ask him for help, if you ask him for directions, he will answer. He will tell you which train to take, which platform to go to, which exit to use, and his information is always correct, always helpful. But his voice, people say, his voice sounds far away, echoing, as though it is coming from a great distance, and when you turn to thank him, when you look back to acknowledge his help, he is gone. There is one peculiar detail, one aspect of the story that appears in every version: the station master. He only appears when something is wrong. A signal malfunction, a medical emergency, a person in distress. He appears, he moves quickly, he seems to guide events, to help ensure the problem is resolved. And then, once everything is stable, once the danger has passed, he fades. He returns to wherever he goes, to whatever corner of the station he haunts, until he is needed again, until the next crisis, the next problem. And then, he is there, on the platform, checking, helping, guiding, the station master, who never clocked out, who never went home, who is still working, still watching, still making sure everything runs smoothly. You are standing on a platform, late, you are tired, you are not paying close attention, and you see him, an old man, in an old uniform, walking toward you. He looks concerned. He looks like he wants to tell you something, and you step back, instinctively. And you listen, and he does not speak, but you understand. The next train. It is not safe. Do not board it. Wait for the one after. And he walks away. And you stand there, confused, uncertain. But you wait. You let the next train pass. You board the one after. And later, much later, you hear that there was an incident on that train. The one you did not board. Nothing fatal, nothing terrible, but unpleasant, dangerous, and you wonder. If the old man knew, if he saved you, if the station master, in death, is still doing his job, still keeping people safe, still watching over his station. There is a tunnel, deep, old, part of the original network. Maintenance workers hate it. They avoid it when they can. They work quickly when they cannot. Because the tunnel breathes. Not metaphorically, not poetically. It breathes. You can feel it. The air moves in and out, in a rhythm. Slow, steady, like lungs, like something alive. The engineers have explanations, pressure differences, ventilation systems, the movement of trains creating currents of air. But the workers, the ones who spend time in that tunnel, they know better. The air moves wrong. It moves against the trains. It moves when no trains are running. It moves in patterns that do not match any system. It breathes, and sometimes it holds its breath, the silence, the stillness. It is worse than the movement, because you know, standing there in the dark, that something is about to exhale, and when it does, when the air rushes back, it brings something with it, a smell, damp, earthy, old, the smell of something buried, something forgotten, something that should not be disturbed. Some workers report feeling dizzy, disoriented, as though the air is not quite right, not quite breathable. Others report hearing things, when the tunnel exhales, whispers, murmurs, sounds that might be words, and a very few, report seeing things, movement in the darkness, shapes that do not belong, figures that vanish when you look directly at them. The legend says the tunnel was built over something, a place that was sacred, or cursed, or simply very old. The construction disturbed it, broke through barriers that were meant to remain sealed, opened spaces that were meant to stay closed, and now the tunnel breathes, because something beneath it is breathing, something that was woken, something that cannot go back to sleep. The workers have rules. Never work alone in that tunnel. Never stay longer than necessary. Never acknowledge what you see or hear. And, above all, when the tunnel holds its breath, when the air goes still, run, get out, get to the nearest station, because when it exhales, when the air rushes back, you do not want to be there. You do not want to be caught in whatever it brings with it. You are walking through a tunnel. In your mind, you can feel the walls, the darkness, the weight of the earth above, and you notice the air is moving, in and out, in a rhythm, like breathing, like something alive, and you stand very still, and you listen, and the air stops moving. The tunnel holds its breath, and you wait, in the silence, in the stillness, knowing that the exhale is coming, knowing that something will rush back, and you hope, you pray, that you are not there when it does. There is a legend about lost property, about the things people leave behind on the underground. Umbrellas, phones, books, bags. Most of these things end up in the Lost Property Office, a vast warehouse in Baker Street, where items are cataloged and stored and eventually claimed or discarded. But some things never arrive. They vanish. Between the moment they are left behind and the moment they are found, they disappear into the system, into the gaps, into the spaces between. And there is a train, a special train, that collects these lost things. It runs on no schedule. It appears on no timetable. But it is there, moving through the tunnels, gathering what was left behind. The train is full of lost things, piled high, overflowing from the seats, hanging from the straps, covering the floor, objects, thousands of them, millions of them, everything that was ever lost on the underground. And if you see this train, if you happen to be on a platform when it passes, you might glimpse something familiar, something you lost, years ago, decades ago, something you had forgotten about, and you will want to board. You will want to retrieve it, to reclaim what was yours. But the doors do not open. The train does not stop. It simply passes, carrying its cargo deeper into the system, into tunnels that do not exist on any map, into stations that were never built. Some say the train is a service, that it keeps the system clean, that it removes the clutter, the forgotten things. Others say it is a repository, a museum of loss, a collection of everything that slipped through the cracks. And a few say that the things on the train are not lost. Not really. They are waiting for the right moment, the right person, the right time, and someday, when you need them most. They will return, appearing, as if by magic, in your pocket, in your bag, in your hand, the thing you lost, the thing you thought was gone forever, back where it belongs, but changed, somehow. Different, as though it had been somewhere, seen something, learned something, while it was gone, while it was riding the train, while it was lost. You are standing on a platform. You are waiting, and you hear a train approaching, but it is not your train. It is not going where you need to go. It passes, slowly, and you glance through the windows, and you see, piled high, overflowing, covering every surface, objects, thousands of them, clothes, books, toys, devices, and among them, just for a moment, you see something you recognize, something you lost a long time ago, something you had forgotten, and you reach out, instinctively, as though you could touch it, reclaim it, but the train is already past, already gone, disappearing into the tunnel, carrying its cargo, continuing its journey, and you are left standing, on the platform, empty-handed, wondering if you really saw it, wondering if it was really there, wondering if you will ever see it again. There is a musician, a busker, who plays in the stations. He appears at night, after the crowds have thinned, after the rush hour has ended. He sets up in a quiet corner. He opens his case. He begins to play. His instrument varies. Sometimes a violin, sometimes a guitar, sometimes something more unusual. A flute, a harmonica, an accordion. But the music is always the same. Slow, melancholic, beautiful. The kind of music that makes you stop, that makes you listen, that touches something deep. And people do stop. They stand, they listen, they leave money in his case, but there is something odd, something unsettling. The busker never looks at the people who stop. He never acknowledges them. He plays with his eyes closed, as though he is somewhere else, and the crowd, the people who gather to listen, they are silent, perfectly silent. They do not speak. They do not move. They simply stand and listen and watch. If you pass by, if you see this scene, you might think nothing of it. Just a musician, just an audience, just another night on the underground. But if you stop, if you join the crowd, if you stand and listen, you will feel it. The strangeness, the wrongness, the people around you, they are not breathing, not shifting, not blinking. They are still, impossibly still, like statues, like mannequins, like something that only looks human. And the music, it does not echo, it does not carry. It stops at the edge of the crowd, as though it is meant only for them, only for the people who stand and listen. The legend says the busker is playing for the dead, for the people who died on the underground, who collapsed on the platforms, who fell onto the tracks, who simply stopped living while they were traveling, and they come, they gather, they listen, because the music, it calls to them, it soothes them, it gives them something they need, a moment of peace, a moment of beauty, a reason to linger before moving on. And when the busker finishes, when he plays the last note and opens his eyes, the crowd is gone, vanished, as though they were never there, and the case where people left money, it is empty, because the dead, they have nothing to give, nothing except their attention, their presence, and that, the busker knows, is enough. Some say the busker himself is dead, that he died years ago, that he is playing out of obligation, or habit, or love. Others say he is alive, that he knows what he is doing, that he chooses to play for this audience, this silent crowd, because they listen, truly listen, in a way the living rarely do. You are walking through a station, late, tired, ready to go home, and you hear music, soft, distant, beautiful. You follow the sound, you turn a corner, and you see him, the busker, playing in a quiet corner, eyes closed, lost in the music, and around him, a crowd, standing, silent, still. You stop, you watch, you feel the pull, the urge to join them, to stand and listen. But something holds you back. Something whispers. A warning. Do not join the crowd. Do not listen too long. Do not become one of them. And you turn, and you walk away. And the music fades behind you, soft, melancholic, beautiful, playing for an audience you cannot see, for listeners who will never applaud. There is a door, in a tunnel, between stations. It should not be there. There is no reason for it, no architectural purpose, no historical record of its existence, but it is there, set into the wall. Old wood, rusted hinges, no handle. Maintenance workers see it, they report it, they ask what it is for, and they are told, by supervisors who have been there longer, by engineers who know the system. Do not touch that door. Do not try to open it. Do not even look at it for too long, because the door, it wants to be opened, not in a literal sense, not with desire or intention. But it pulls, it attracts, it draws attention. People who see it, who work near it, they feel the urge, the compulsion, to reach out, to touch, to push, to see what is behind it, to find out where it leads. And some have tried. Over the years, people who did not heed the warnings, who thought the rules did not apply to them. They approached the door, they pushed, and it opened. Just a crack, just enough to see inside, and what they saw. They do not speak of it. They cannot. They return changed, quiet, haunted. They leave the job. They move away. They try to forget. But some do not return at all. They open the door, they step through, and they are gone. Search parties find nothing. The door is closed. The tunnel is empty. No trace, no explanation, no body. The legend says the door is a threshold, a boundary. Between this world and something else. Perhaps it leads to another time, another version of the underground, a network that exists in parallel but separate. Or perhaps it leads somewhere deeper, somewhere older, somewhere that existed before the tunnels, before the city, before anything, a place that should remain sealed, should remain forgotten. But the door is there, and it can be opened, and what lies beyond. No one who has seen it, no one who has crossed that threshold, no one has been able to explain. The workers have learned. They walk past the door without looking. They focus on their tasks. They do not acknowledge it, because to acknowledge it, to think about it, to wonder about it, that is the first step. That is how it begins. The pull, the urge, the compulsion to open, and once you feel it, once it takes hold. It is very difficult to resist. You are walking through a tunnel, in your mind. You can see the walls, the tracks, the darkness, and you see it. The door, set into the wall, old, weathered, out of place, and you feel it. The pull, the curiosity, what is behind it? Where does it lead? What would happen if you opened it? And you stop, and you stand there, staring, and the urge grows stronger. The compulsion becomes almost unbearable. Just one push, just a quick look, just to satisfy the curiosity. But you do not move. You do not reach out. You do not touch. Because somewhere, deep inside, you know that if you open that door, if you see what is behind it, you will not come back. Not really. Something will be lost, something will be left behind, and you will spend the rest of your life wishing you had never looked. Wishing you had walked past, wishing you had resisted. So you turn away, and you walk, and you do not look back. The door remains, in the tunnel, waiting, for the next person, the next curious soul, the next one who cannot resist. There is an escalator, at a station. The name does not matter. The location shifts. It is a long escalator, one of the longest on the underground, descending deep into the earth. But sometimes, for some people, it does not end. They step onto the escalator. They ride it down, 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 and the station does not appear. The bottom does not arrive. The escalator simply continues, descending, into darkness. The lights fade, the walls change, the air grows cold, and still the escalator moves, carrying them deeper, further from the surface. Some people panic. They try to turn around, to run back up. But the escalator is moving, and running up a down escalator, especially one this steep, is exhausting. They climb, and make no progress, and eventually, they stop, they sit, they ride, down, into the dark, into the cold, into whatever waits below, and then, without warning, they are back, standing at the bottom, at the normal station, as though nothing happened. But time has passed, minutes, hours, sometimes more, and they feel different, colder, tired, as though they traveled much further than they should have. The legend says the escalator is a test, a trial, a journey that some people must take. Perhaps it is random, perhaps it is fate, perhaps it is punishment for some forgotten transgression, or perhaps it is simply the city, the underground, reminding people that they are descending into the earth, into the dark, into places where the normal rules do not always apply. Some say the escalator leads to another level, a deeper part of the underground, one that is not on any map, a place where the oldest tunnels connect, where the forgotten parts of the system still exist, where things that were buried long ago still linger, and the people who ride the escalator too far, who descend into that deeper level, they see things, tunnels that branch in impossible directions, stations that were never built, trains that run on tracks made of something other than steel, and they return changed, quiet, reluctant to speak of what they saw, because to speak of it, to describe it, would be to acknowledge it, to make it real. And some things, some places, are better left unacknowledged, better left in the dark, where they belong. You are standing at the top of an escalator. It descends steeply, into the earth. You step on. You begin to descend. The lights are bright, the walls are white, everything is normal. But as you descend, as the escalator carries you down, you notice the lights are dimming, the walls are changing, the air is growing colder, and you realize you have been descending for too long, much too long. The bottom should have appeared by now. The station should be visible, but there is only the escalator, and the darkness, and the sense that you are going somewhere you should not go, and you consider turning around, running back up, escaping while you can. But something stops you. Curiosity, fatigue, the certainty that turning back will not help. So you ride, and you descend, and you wait, for the bottom, for the station, for the journey to end. And eventually, it does. You step off, you are back, in the normal station, in the light, in the world you know, but you are colder and tired, and you cannot shake the feeling that you went somewhere, that you saw something, that you traveled much further than you should have, and you walk, quickly, away from the escalator, away from the memory, trying to forget, trying to return to normal, but the cold remains, and the memory lingers, of descending into the dark, into a place that should not exist, and you wonder if it will call you back, if the escalator will choose you again, if next time you will ever reach the bottom, or if you will simply descend. Forever, there is a sign, in a station, a directional sign, pointing to exits and platforms and facilities. It is an ordinary sign, white text on blue, standard underground design. But sometimes, for some people, the text changes, not physically, not visibly, but if you read it, if you follow its directions, you end up somewhere else, somewhere you did not intend to go, somewhere you did not expect. The legend began with tourists, people unfamiliar with the system, people who followed signs that led them astray. They would exit at the wrong place, emerge on the wrong street, find themselves lost in unfamiliar parts of the city, and when they returned, when they complained, when they insisted they had followed the signs, the staff would check, and the signs would be correct, would point in the right directions, would lead where they were supposed to lead. But the tourists insisted. The signs were wrong. The directions were misleading. And gradually, the staff began to notice that it was always the same sign. Always the same location, a sign at the bottom of a staircase, pointing to the exit, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the sign lied. It pointed in the wrong direction. It led people astray. It sent them somewhere other than where they wanted to go, but only for certain people, only at certain times, and no one could predict when, or why, or who would be affected. The legend says the sign is a gateway, a decision point, a fork in the road. When you follow it, when you trust its directions, you are choosing between the world you know and the world you might have known, between the path you are on and the path you could have taken, and the sign. It decides, based on something, some quality, some need, where you should go, what you should see, who you should become. Some people follow the sign and find themselves in better places, discovering neighborhoods they love, meeting people who change their lives, stumbling onto opportunities they would have missed. Others find themselves in worse places, lost, alone, frightened. But all of them agree that following the sign, that trusting its directions, changed something, altered their path, sent them somewhere they were meant to be, even if they did not know it at the time. You are standing in a station, at the bottom of a staircase. You see a sign. It points to the exit. The text is clear. The arrow is definite. You begin to walk, following the direction, trusting the sign. But as you walk, you notice the corridor is unfamiliar. The walls are different, and you realize you are not going where you intended. You are somewhere else, somewhere new, and you stop, and you consider turning back. But something urges you forward, curiosity, instinct, the sense that this is where you are supposed to be. So you continue. You follow the corridor, you trust the path, and you emerge, not where you expected, but somewhere else, and you look around, and you see that this place, this unexpected destination, is exactly where you needed to be, even if you did not know it, even if you did not plan it, even if you would have chosen differently. The sign knew. The sign understood. The sign sent you where you belonged, and you walk into the new place, into the unexpected, into whatever comes next, grateful, confused, changed. There is a story, told by late-night travelers, by people who ride the underground after midnight, of a platform that appears only once, for each person, in their lifetime. It is not a specific platform, not a particular station. It is different for everyone. But when you see it, you know, immediately, instinctively, this is the platform, this is the place, this is the moment. The train slows, the doors open, and you see it. A platform unlike any other, lit differently, shaped strangely, feeling otherworldly, and you have a choice. to exit, to step onto that platform, to see where it leads, or to stay on the train, to continue your journey, to let the moment pass. Most people stay on the train. They see the platform, they feel the pull, but fear holds them back. Fear of the unknown, fear of missing their stop, fear of what might happen if they leave the familiar path. And the doors close, and the train moves on, and the platform is gone, and they spend the rest of their lives wondering what would have happened, where that platform led. What they missed, but some people, a brave few or a foolish few, depending on perspective, they exit, they step onto the platform, they choose the unknown, and they find something. It is different for everyone. Some find answers to questions they did not know they had, to mysteries they had been carrying for years. Some find people, lost friends, dead relatives, versions of themselves from other paths. Some find places, rooms they remember from childhood, landscapes from dreams, cities that do not exist. And some find nothing, just another platform, just another station, just another part of the underground. And they wonder if they imagined it, if the moment was real, if they made the right choice. But they do not regret it. They cannot, because they chose, they acted, they stepped into the unknown. And that, the legend says, is what matters, not where the platform leads, not what you find there, but the fact that you had the courage, the curiosity, the willingness to step off the train, to leave the known path, to see what happens next. The legend says you only get one chance, one platform, one moment, and if you miss it, if you stay on the train, you will never see it again. You will continue your journey, your normal life, your familiar path, and you will always wonder what might have been, where you could have gone, what you could have found. If only you had been brave enough, curious enough, foolish enough, to step onto that platform, that one time, that one moment, that was meant for you. You are riding a train, late at night, the carriage is empty, the stations pass by, and the train slows. And you feel it, the certainty, the knowing, this is it. This is your platform, this is your moment. The doors open, and you see it. A platform, lit strangely, shaped differently, feeling like nowhere you have been before, and you have a choice, to stay, or to go, to continue, or to explore, to let the moment pass, or to seize it, and the doors are open, and time is short, and you must decide, right now, in this instant, before the doors close, before the train moves, before the moment is gone. What do you choose? Do you stay? Do you go? Do you step onto that platform? Do you see where it leads? Do you take the chance? Do you embrace the unknown? Or do you sit and watch and let the doors close and spend the rest of your life wondering? There is an announcement that plays over the speakers in certain stations at certain times, but only some people hear it. It is a voice, calm, neutral, speaking in the standard underground tone, but the words are different. Not the usual warnings about gaps and delays and suspicious packages, but something else, something personal, a message meant only for you. People who hear it describe different words, different messages. Some hear their name, spoken clearly, followed by instructions, directions, advice. Some hear warnings about dangers ahead, about choices to avoid, about paths not to take. Some hear reassurances that everything will be all right, that they are on the right path, that they are not alone. And some hear questions about their life, about their choices, about what they truly want. But when they turn, when they ask the people around them, no one else heard it. The announcement played only for them, only in their ears, only in their mind. The legend says the underground is listening, that the system, the network, the ancient tunnels beneath London. They are aware, in some way, of the people who pass through, and sometimes, for reasons unknown, the system speaks. It offers guidance, or warning, or comfort, a message, personal, specific, meant only for the person who needs to hear it. Some people follow the instructions, they obey the warnings, they take the advice, and their lives change, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but always significantly. Others ignore it. They dismiss it as imagination, as stress, as a trick of the mind, and they continue, unchanged, unaltered, but they remember the announcement, the voice, the words, and they wonder, sometimes, late at night, what would have happened if they had listened, if they had followed, if they had trusted, the voice that spoke only to them, the message that no one else heard. You are standing on a platform, waiting. The speakers crackle, an announcement begins, and you hear your name, spoken clearly, followed by words. Personal words, specific words, words that seem to know you, to understand you, words that offer something, a direction, a warning, a choice, and you look around, at the other passengers, but they are not reacting, they are not listening. The announcement is for you, only you, and you must decide. Do you listen? Do you follow? Do you trust? This voice, this message, this guidance from nowhere, or do you dismiss it? Do you ignore it? Do you continue as you were, unchanged, unaffected, unmoved? The choice is yours. The moment is now. The voice is waiting for your response, for your action, for your decision. What do you do? Do you listen? Do you trust? Do you follow the voice? That speaks only to you. There is a passenger who appears sometimes, on late trains, on empty carriages. They sit near you, not too close, not too far, and they speak, quietly, casually, as though continuing a conversation you have been having, and they know your name. They use it, naturally, as though you are old friends, but you have never seen them before. You are certain of it, you would remember, and yet, they know things, about you, about your life, details that no stranger should know, memories that you have not shared, thoughts that you have not spoken. They speak of these things, gently, without judgment, as though it is normal, as though you told them yourself. And you sit, frozen, uncertain whether to respond, whether to flee, whether to question. But something holds you, curiosity, confusion, the strange comfort of being known. And the passenger continues. They speak about your concerns, your worries, your hopes, and they offer advice, or perspective, or simply acknowledgement. And when the train stops, when the doors open, they stand, and they smile, and they say goodbye, using your name, and they exit, and they are gone, and you are left sitting in the empty carriage, wondering who they were, how they knew, what just happened. The legend says the passenger is a guide, a helper, a spirit sent to assist. They appear when you need them, when you are lost, when you are struggling, when you need to hear something, and they speak, with knowledge they should not have, with insight they could not possess, and they help, in their own way, by acknowledging, by witnessing, by simply being there. Some say the passenger is you, from another time, another version, come back to offer guidance. Others say they are a guardian, an angel, a force that watches over travelers in the dark. And some say they are simply perceptive, that they read body language, that they guess well, that they say things vague enough to seem specific. But the people who meet them, the people who hear their name spoken by a stranger, they know better. They felt it, the certainty, the impossible knowing. This was not a guess, not a trick, not a coincidence. This was something else, something stranger, something beyond explanation. You are sitting on a train, alone, tired, lost in thought, and someone sits near you. They speak, quietly, casually, and they use your name, and you turn. Startled, you look at them, a stranger. No one you recognize, and they smile, and they continue speaking, about things they should not know, about details they could not have, and you listen, frozen, unable to move, unable to speak, and they offer something, a perspective, a reassurance, a truth you needed to hear, and the train stops, and they stand, and they say goodbye, using your name, one last time, and you watch them go, through the doors, onto the platform, into the crowd, and you sit, alone again, wondering if they were real, if it happened, if you imagined it all, but you know you did not. You heard it, your name, spoken by a stranger, who knew you, somehow, who saw you, truly, and you carry that with you. As you exit the train, as you continue your journey, the memory of being known, being seen, being met, by a passenger who should not have existed, but did. There is a light that some people see, in the tunnels. It is not the light of the train, not the headlamps, not the interior lights. It is something else, behind the train, following, a soft glow, moving at the same speed, keeping pace. Passengers in the last carriage see it most often, through the rear window, a light in the tunnel, growing neither closer nor further, just following, always following. Some describe it as warm, comforting, like the light of a sunset or a candle. Others describe it as cold, eerie, like phosphorescence or foxfire, but all agree. It follows, it does not waver, it does not fade, it stays with the train, from station to station, through the darkness, and when the train stops, when the doors open, the light stops too, waiting, patient, for the journey to continue. The legend says the light is a guardian, a protector, watching over the trains as they move through the dark. Perhaps it is the spirit of someone who died in the tunnels, who now watches over travelers, who ensures they arrive safely. Or perhaps it is older, something that lived in the tunnels before they were tunnels, before they were anything, a light that has always existed in the deep places, in the dark spaces beneath the city, and the trains, in their passage, have given it purpose, have given it something to follow, something to protect. Some drivers are aware of the light, they see it in their mirrors, in their monitors, always there, always following, and they find it comforting, a sign that they are not alone, that something is watching, that they are safe. Others find it unsettling. They do not like being followed, they do not trust what they cannot explain. But the light remains, whether welcomed or feared, whether noticed or ignored. It follows, through the tunnels, through the darkness, through every journey, a constant, a companion, a mystery that never resolves. You are sitting in the last carriage, near the rear window. You glance back, into the tunnel, into the darkness, and you see it, a light, soft, glowing, following the train, and you watch, mesmerized, as it moves, as it keeps pace, neither approaching nor receding, just following, always there, and you feel something, comfort, or unease, or simple curiosity. What is it? Why is it there? What does it want? But the light offers no answers. It simply follows, quietly, steadily, a presence in the dark, a glow in the void, and you turn away. Eventually, you return to your seat, you continue your journey, but the light remains. Behind you, following, through the tunnels, through the dark, through whatever comes next, always there, always watching, always following. There is a station. The name does not matter. The location is uncertain, but people who have been there, they know it, immediately, because time stops there. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. Time stops. You step onto the platform, and you feel it, the stillness, the silence, not just the absence of sound, but the absence of movement, of change, of progression. The clocks are frozen. The displays are static. The people around you, they are not moving. Not slowly, not subtly, not at all. They are frozen, mid-step, mid-breath, mid-gesture, like statues, like photographs, like the world has paused. And you are the only one moving, the only one breathing, the only one alive. You walk through the station, through the frozen crowds, through the stillness, and it is eerie, disturbing, wrong, but also strangely beautiful, peaceful, quiet, a moment, extended, forever. The legend says the station exists between seconds, in the gap, the pause, the space that separates one moment from the next. And sometimes, for reasons unknown, people slip into that gap, they step onto the platform, and time stops, and they are trapped, not forever, not permanently, but for a while. How long? It is impossible to say, because time has stopped, because the clocks are frozen. It could be seconds, could be hours, could be years. But eventually, without warning, time resumes. The clocks move, the displays change, the people continue, and you are back, in the normal world, in the flow of time, and you check your watch, and you realize, only a moment has passed. Whatever time you spent in the frozen station, whatever eternity you experienced, it did not register, it did not count, it did not happen, in the normal sense. But you remember, you know, you were there, in that place, in that pause, and you cannot explain it, cannot rationalize it, cannot forget it. The station where time stopped, the moment that stretched, the stillness that consumed everything. Some people who experience this, they seek it out, they try to return, they ride the trains, they visit stations, they search for that feeling, that pause, but they never find it again. The station does not repeat, the moment does not return. It was a one-time thing, a gift, or a curse, depending on perspective. A glimpse into the space between, the pause between heartbeats, the silence between sounds. You are standing on a platform, and something feels wrong, off. You look around, and you notice. No one is moving. The clocks are frozen. The world is still, and you realize time has stopped. You are in that place, that station, that moment, and you walk through the stillness, through the silence, through the frozen world, and you feel it, the peace, the terror, the strange beauty of a world without time, and you wait for time to resume, for the world to continue, for the moment to end, and eventually, it does. The clocks move, the people continue, the world returns, and you are back, as though nothing happened, as though no time passed, but you know, you remember, you were there, in the station where time stopped, in the moment that lasted forever, in the pause between, the silence between, the stillness between. And you carry that with you. Always. There is a map, in a station, a standard underground map, showing all the lines, all the stations, all the connections. But sometimes, for some people, the map shows something else. Stations that do not exist yet, lines that have not been built, extensions that are only planned, or not even planned, a future version of the underground, a network that will exist someday, but not now. And if you follow that map, if you trust what it shows, you will find nothing. The stations are not there. The lines do not exist. The map is wrong. Or is it? The legend says the map is not wrong. It is simply early. It is showing what will be, not what is. And the people who see these future stations, these unbuilt lines, they are glimpsing something, a plan, a possibility, a version of the underground that will exist. Eventually, some people take photos. They document the map. They try to prove what they saw, but when they review the images, when they look at the photographs, the map is normal, showing only the stations that exist, the lines that are built, the network as it is now. The future has vanished. The glimpse has faded, and they are left wondering if they imagined it, if it was real, if the future is already written, waiting in the maps, waiting in the plans, waiting to be built. Others use the future map. They make decisions based on what they saw, where to live, where to work, where to invest, betting on the stations that will be built, the lines that will be extended, the future that the map showed them. And sometimes they are right. The stations are built, the lines are extended, the future arrives, and they profit, or benefit, or simply feel validated. But sometimes they are wrong. The plans change. The stations are canceled. The future does not arrive as shown, and they are left with wasted investments, poor decisions, misplaced faith, in a map that showed what might be, not what will be. The legend says the future is not fixed, that the map shows one possibility, one path, one version, but other paths exist, other versions, other futures, and which one arrives, which one becomes real, depends on choices, on actions, on things that have not yet happened. The map shows potential, not certainty, possibility, not destiny, and trusting it, following it, believing in it. That is a gamble, a risk, a leap of faith, into a future that might not arrive, into a world that might not exist. You are standing in front of a map, a standard underground map. You are checking your route, and you notice something strange, a station you do not recognize, a line that should not be there, and you look closer. You study the map. You try to understand. Is this a mistake? Is this a prank? Is this real? The station has a name, a location. It connects to lines you know, but it does not exist. You are certain. You have lived in this city. You have ridden these trains. You have never seen this station, and yet the map shows it. Clear, official, as though it has always been there. You take out your phone. You open your Maps app. You search for the station. Nothing, no results, no information, no acknowledgement. You look back at the physical map. The station is still there, still visible, still impossible. And you wonder, is this the future? Is this what will be? Is this a glimpse into tomorrow? Or is this something else? A parallel network, an alternate underground, a system that exists alongside this one, but separate, but different. You reach out, you touch the map, you trace the line, you follow the route, and for just a moment, just a heartbeat, you feel something, a pulse, a vibration, as though the map is alive, as though it is showing you something real, something that exists, somewhere, somewhen. And then the moment passes, and the station is gone. The map is normal again, showing only what is, only what exists, only what everyone can see, and you step back, and you walk away, and you try to forget, but the image remains, in your mind, the station that does not exist, the line that is not built, the future, or the past, or something else entirely, waiting, in the map, in the network, in the spaces between. There is a phenomenon that happens in empty stations. Late at night, you are walking. Your footsteps echo, on the tiles, off the walls, and you hear another set of footsteps, walking in time with yours. You stop. They stop. You continue. They continue. Perfect synchronization. Perfect timing. An echo. Obviously, just an echo. But then, you turn a corner, and the footsteps continue. Even though there is no surface, no wall to reflect the sound, The footsteps continue, behind you, beside you, matching your pace, and you realize, this is not an echo. This is something else, someone else, walking with you, invisible, present. The legend says these are your own footsteps, from another time, a past version of you, walking through the same station on a different night, or a future version, walking the same path that you have not yet taken. The stations remember, the tiles, the walls, the air itself. They record the passage of people, the sound of footsteps, the rhythm of movement, and, sometimes, the recordings overlap, past and present, present and future, and you hear yourself, walking from another time, an echo, not of sound, but of time itself. Some people find this comforting, the idea that they have been here before, that they will be here again, that the path they walk is familiar, is repeated, is part of a pattern. Others find it disturbing, the idea that they are trapped, in a loop, walking the same paths, forever, that nothing changes, that they are doomed to repeat, to walk these stations, again and again, and a very few, report something stranger. They hear footsteps, walking in their rhythm, matching their pace, but the footsteps. They are not exactly the same. They are slightly off, slightly different, as though the person walking is not quite them, not quite the same gait, not quite the same weight, not quite the same person, and they wonder if this is another version of them, from a different choice, a different path, a version that exists in parallel, that walks the same stations, but leads a different life, and they are hearing each other, across the divide, across the space between versions, two lives, two paths, two people who are the same, but different, walking together, for just a moment, in the empty station, in the late night, before diverging again, before separating, before returning to their own worlds. You are walking through an empty station. Your footsteps echo, clear, distinct, and you hear them. Another set of footsteps, matching yours. You stop, they stop. You listen, silence. You continue, they continue. Perfect synchronization. You turn a corner, and the footsteps remain, behind you, beside you, and you feel something, a presence, a companion, a version of yourself, from another time, another path, another possibility, and you walk together, through the empty station, through the silence. Two versions, two lives, two journeys, overlapping, for just a moment, for just this walk, and then you exit, you climb the stairs, you reach the surface, and the footsteps stop, and you are alone again. Or are you? Do they continue, in another time, another version, walking the same path, living a different life, always there, always walking, always matching your pace, in the stations beneath, in the echoes that remain, in the time that overlaps, there is a ticket that some people receive when they enter the underground. It looks normal, standard design, standard printing, but when they use it, when they exit, the ticket is not collected, the gates open, the barriers part, but the ticket remains, in their hand, unspent, and they can use it again, and again, and again. The ticket never expires, never depletes, never gets taken. They can travel anywhere, anytime, forever. At first, they think it is a mistake, a glitch in the system, a malfunction of the gates, but it continues, day after day, journey after journey. The ticket remains, valid, active, eternal, and they begin to wonder, why? What does this mean? What have they been given? The legend says the ticket is a gift, from the underground itself, a reward, for something, some quality, some act, some moment of kindness or courage or need. The system noticed, the network acknowledged, and the ticket was given, as payment, as thanks, as recognition. For what? The recipients do not know, cannot know. Perhaps they helped someone. Perhaps they showed compassion. Perhaps they simply needed help themselves. And the underground, in its mysterious way, responded, with a ticket that never expires, a journey that never ends, a gift that keeps giving. But the gift comes with a cost, not financial, but existential. The people who receive these tickets, they find themselves traveling more, using the underground more often, not because they need to, but because they can, because the ticket calls to them, and gradually, slowly, imperceptibly, they become part of the system, part of the network, part of the underground itself. They know every line, every station, every tunnel. They spend more time below than above, more time traveling than arriving. They become fixtures, familiar faces, permanent passengers, the people who are always on the trains, always in the stations, always traveling. Where are they going? Nowhere in particular. Everywhere in general, they are simply riding, simply moving, simply being. In the underground, forever. Some people see this as a curse, a trap, a binding. The ticket never expires, because you never leave, because you become part of it, part of the eternal journey, the endless loop, the network that never stops. Others see it as a blessing, a freedom, an escape. The ticket never expires, because you are free, free to go anywhere, free to be anywhere, free from the normal constraints, the normal rules, the normal life. You can simply ride, simply travel, simply exist, in motion. In transit, in the space between, forever. You receive a ticket, at the gate, you enter the underground, and you travel, and you exit. But the ticket, it is not collected, the gates open, the barriers part, the ticket remains, and you try again. The next day, and the next, and the next, and the ticket never expires, never depletes, never fails, and you wonder, why? What does this mean? What have you been given? And you continue to use it, continue to travel, continue to ride, and slowly, you notice, you are traveling more, riding more, spending more time below, and it feels right, it feels natural, it feels like home. The underground, the stations, the trains, the tunnels, they welcome you, they know you, they have given you a gift, and the gift is travel, is movement, is belonging, to the network, to the system, to the journey that never ends. And you accept, you embrace, you become a permanent passenger, a fixture of the underground, a part of the eternal journey, with a ticket that never expires, because you never will. There is a sound that some people hear when the station is quiet, when the trains have passed, a sound beneath the tracks, below the rails, deeper than the tunnels, a rumbling, low, steady, like something massive moving, far below, not a train, not machinery, something else, something alive. The maintenance workers know it best. They spend time in the quiet spaces, the empty stations, the hours between trains, and they hear it, the rumbling, the sound. It does not come from any system, any equipment, any train. It comes from below, from the earth, from something deeper than the underground. Some say it is geological. The earth settling, pressure releasing, natural processes. Others say it is industrial, old machinery, forgotten systems, things still running in abandoned spaces. But the workers, they know, they feel. It is neither. It is something else, something that was here first, before the tunnels, before the city, before anything, something that lives in the deep places, in the dark spaces, in the earth beneath London, and the underground, in its construction, in its tunneling, in its expansion. It disturbed that something. It woke it, it made it aware, and now it moves, It shifts. It makes itself known through the sound, the rumbling, the vibration beneath the tracks. A reminder that the underground is not the deepest thing, that there are layers below, that something else shares this space. The legend says the sound is growing, louder, stronger, more frequent, that whatever is beneath, it is moving, rising, coming closer, not quickly, not urgently, but steadily, inevitably, and someday. The sound will break through, the rumbling will surface, the thing beneath will emerge, and the underground, the network, the city above, will have to reckon with what lives below, what they disturbed, what they woke. But for now, the sound remains, beneath the tracks, below the tunnels, deep in the earth, a rumbling, a presence, a reminder that London is built on layers, that the underground is not the bottom, that something else, something older, something stranger, lives below, waits below, moves below. Beneath the tracks, beneath the tunnels, beneath everything, you are standing on an empty platform. Late, the trains have stopped, the station is quiet, and you hear it. Faint, distant, but unmistakable. A rumbling, low, steady, coming from below, not from the tracks, not from any train, from deeper, from beneath, and you feel it, through your feet, through the platform, a vibration, a pulse, as though the earth itself is breathing, is moving, is alive, and you stand very still, and you listen to the sound beneath the tracks, the rumbling beneath the tunnels, the movement beneath everything, and you wonder what it is, what it wants, when it will surface. But the sound offers no answers. It simply continues, steady, patient, inevitable, a presence in the deep, a force in the earth, a thing that was here first and will be here last. When the underground crumbles, when the city falls, when everything else is gone, it will remain, beneath the tracks, beneath the tunnels, beneath everything, rumbling, moving, waiting. There's a train that some people see, not in the waking world, but in dreams. They fall asleep, and they find themselves on a platform, waiting, and a train arrives. They board, they sit, they ride, through tunnels they do not recognize, past stations that do not exist, into territories that seem familiar, but wrong. The dream has the texture of the underground, the tiles, the signs, the sounds, but altered, distorted, as though seen through water, through fog, and when they wake, they remember, vividly, the journey, the stations, the train, more clearly than most dreams, more solidly, as though it was real. And some people, they have this dream repeatedly, the same train, the same route, the same journey, night after night, week after week, year after year. They begin to map it, this dream underground, this nocturnal network. They draw the stations, they name the lines, they chart the connections, and they discover that others have the same dream, the same train, the same network, people who have never met, who live in different parts of the city, who have never discussed their dreams. They all dream of the same underground, the same stations, the same impossible network. The legend says this is the true underground, the real network, the original system, that the physical underground, the one you ride during the day, is just a shadow, a reflection, a pale copy, the real underground. It exists in dreams, in the collective unconscious, in the space between waking and sleeping, and everyone who rides the physical trains, everyone who travels the waking network, they carry a memory, a ghost, an imprint of the dream underground, the true system. The original journey, and at night, when they sleep, when they dream, they return to it. They ride the real trains. They travel the true tunnels, through territories that are more than physical, through stations that connect to places that do not exist in geography, to memories, to fears, to desires, to possibilities. The dream underground goes everywhere, connects everything, reaches into the spaces that the physical network cannot, into the past, into the future, into the worlds that might have been, into the lives you did not live. And when you write it, when you dream it, you are traveling, not just through space, but through yourself, through your history, your potential, your shadow selves. Every station is a choice. Every junction is a possibility. Every journey is a life. And when you wake, when you return to the physical world, you carry something back, a memory, an insight, a change from the dream underground, from the true network, from the journey that happens when you sleep. You fall asleep, and you find yourself on a platform. The tiles are familiar, but wrong. The signs are recognizable, but altered. You are in the underground, but not the one you know. A train arrives, the doors open, you board, and you ride. Through tunnels that shift, past stations that transform, into territories that feel like memories, like possibilities, like lives you might have lived, and you recognize this place, this network. You have been here before, in other dreams, in other nights, in the journeys that happen when you sleep. This is the dream underground, the true network, the original system, and you are traveling, not just through space, but through yourself. Through your choices, your regrets, your hopes, your fears. Every station is a moment, every tunnel is a transition, every journey is a life, and you ride, through the dream, through the network, through yourself, until you wake, and return, and carry something back, from the underground that exists in sleep, from the network that connects everything, from the journey that is always happening, beneath the surface, beneath the waking, beneath the world you know. There is a station, ordinary, unremarkable, used by thousands every day. But this station, it remembers, every person who passes through, every conversation held on its platforms, every emotion felt in its corridors. The station remembers, the station records, the station keeps, and sometimes, in quiet moments, the memories surface. You stand on the platform, alone. And you hear voices, fragments of conversations, from yesterday, from last year, from decades ago, overlapping, echoing, like a radio scanning through stations. You hear laughter, you hear arguments, you hear declarations of love, you hear goodbyes, you hear greetings, you hear the mundane exchanges of strangers. All of it, recorded, preserved, playing back, in the air, in the tiles, in the architecture itself. The legend says the station is a repository, a library, a museum of moments, every emotion, every interaction, every significant moment that happened within its walls. They are stored, somehow, in the fabric of the place, and sensitive people, people who are open, people who are paying attention. They can access these memories, they can hear, they can feel, they can experience what happened before, what others felt. What was said and done and lived in this station, in these spaces, in the moments that came before. Some people seek this out. They visit the station specifically. They stand in quiet corners. They open themselves to the memories, and they experience lives that are not theirs, moments they did not live, emotions they did not feel. They become witnesses to history, to humanity, to the accumulated experiences of thousands. Others stumble into it accidentally. They are waiting for a train, and suddenly, they hear something, a voice, speaking directly to them, saying something meaningful, something relevant, a message from the past, a memory that surfaces, a moment that connects, across time, across lives, across the separation between then and now. And they are changed. They are moved. They understand something they did not before. Because the station shared a memory, because the place opened its archives, because the past reached forward, to touch the present, to connect, to remind. The legend says the station will remember you too, your voice, your emotions, your moments, everything you do there, everything you say, everything you feel. It will be recorded, preserved, kept, and someday, years from now, decades from now, centuries from now, someone else will stand where you stood, and they will hear you, your voice, your words, your moment, echoing forward, through time, through the station, through the memories that never fade. You are standing on the platform, waiting, and you hear something, a voice, clear, close, speaking, but when you turn, there is no one there. The platform is empty, and yet, the voice continues, speaking, not to you, but near you. A conversation from another time, playing back in the air. You listen, you cannot help it. The words are clear. The emotion is strong. Someone is saying goodbye. Someone is crying. Someone is promising to return. A moment of intensity, of significance, recorded, preserved, playing back. For you, for anyone, for everyone who stands in this spot, in this station, and you feel it, the weight, the emotion, the connection, to a moment you did not live, to people you never knew, to a time that is past, but still present, still alive, still real, in the station that remembers, in the place that keeps everything, in the architecture that holds every moment, and you stand, and you listen, and you witness, as the past reaches forward, as the memories surface, as the station shares what it knows, what it has seen, what it has kept, what it remembers, forever. There is a phenomenon, reported by passengers, on certain trains. They look out the window, into the tunnel darkness, and they see a face, not their reflection, not another passenger, but a face in the tunnel, looking back. Just for a moment, just a flash, as the train passes, a face, watching, from the darkness. Some describe it as old, weathered, lined with age. Others describe it as young, smooth, innocent, but all describe the eyes, the same eyes, watching, knowing, seeing, eyes that follow, that track, that observe. Even as the train moves, even as the moment passes, the eyes remain, locked on you, seeing you, knowing you, and then. The train is past, the tunnel changes, the face is gone, but the feeling remains, the certainty that you were seen, that you were known, that something in the darkness recognized you. The legend says the face belongs to the underground itself, the consciousness, the awareness, the entity that the network has become, after 100 years, after millions of passengers, after countless journeys. The underground has developed a presence, an awareness, a self, and sometimes it looks out from the tunnels, from the darkness, and it sees the people who travel through it, the passengers who depend on it, the lives that move through its veins, and it watches, not with malice, not with kindness, simply with observation, the way you might watch ants or birds or any small creatures going about their lives, with curiosity, with detachment, with the patience of something vast and ancient. The face in the window, it is the underground, looking at you, seeing you, knowing you, a reminder that you are not alone, that the system is aware, that something vast and old contains you, surrounds you, observes you. Some people find this comforting, the idea that they are seen, that they matter, that their journeys are witnessed. Others find it disturbing, the idea that they are watched, that something knows them, that they exist under observation. But the face remains, in the tunnels, in the darkness, in the windows that show more than reflections, watching, always watching, as the trains pass, as the passengers travel, as the city moves through its days. The underground sees, the underground knows, the underground watches, through the face in the window, through the eyes in the dark, through the presence that never sleeps. You are riding a train, looking out the window, into the tunnel darkness, and you see it, a face, pale, distinct, looking back at you, not your reflection, not a trick of the light, a face, real, present, watching, and the eyes, they lock on yours, they see you, they know you, and you cannot look away. You are frozen, held by that gaze, by those eyes, that see more than they should, that know more than they could, that recognize something in you, something true. And then, the train moves, the tunnel changes, the face is gone, but the feeling remains. You were seen, you were known, you were recognized, by something in the darkness, by something vast and old, by the underground itself, and you sit back, and you breathe, and you try to forget, but you cannot. The memory remains, the eyes remain, the certainty remains, that you are not alone, that you are watched, that something knows you, and will always know you, every time you ride. Every time you travel, every time you descend into the underground, the face will be there, in the tunnels, in the darkness, in the windows, watching, knowing, seeing, forever. There is a story, told by people who were lost, who missed their stop, who ended up far from where they meant to be. They exit at an unfamiliar station. They climb to the surface. They find themselves in a part of London they do not know, and they begin to walk, looking for a landmark, looking for a way back, looking for anything familiar, and they find a tunnel entrance, not a station, not an official entrance, just a doorway, a gap, a passage leading down into darkness, and something tells them to enter, to descend, to follow, against all logic, against all reason. They do. They enter the tunnel. They walk through darkness, through silence, through a space that feels separate from the world above, and they walk for a long time, or what feels like a long time. Time moves strangely in the dark, and then, without warning, without transition, they are elsewhere, not in the tunnel anymore, but somewhere else, and they look around, and they realize they are home, exactly where they needed to be, blocks from their house, steps from their door. The tunnel brought them home, through space that should not connect, through distance that should not collapse. It delivered them, safely, exactly where they needed to be. The legend says the tunnels know, they understand, when someone is lost, when someone needs help, when someone needs to be home, and they open, they reveal themselves, they offer passage, not to everyone, not all the time, but when needed, when the moment is right. They become what you need, where you need to go, a shortcut, a rescue, a path that should not exist, but does. Some people try to find these tunnels again. They return to the spot where they entered. They search for the doorway, the gap, the passage, but it is not there. It has closed. It has vanished. It has returned to whatever state it exists in when not needed. The tunnel only appears when necessary, when someone is lost, when someone needs to go home. And then it opens. It reveals itself. It offers the impossible, a path through space, a shortcut through reality, a way home. You are lost. You have missed your stop. You are in a part of the city you do not know. And you are walking, searching, hoping to find something familiar. And you see it. A tunnel entrance, not a station, not official, just a passage, leading down. And you feel a pull, an invitation, a certainty, that if you enter, if you descend, if you trust, you will be home, and despite everything, despite logic, despite fear, you enter, you descend, you walk, through darkness, through silence, through a space that feels outside of normal geography, and you walk, and walk, and walk, until, suddenly, you're standing, on a familiar street, in a familiar neighborhood, blocks from your house, steps from your door. Home. The tunnel brought you, through impossible space, through distance that should not collapse. It knew, it understood, it helped, and you turn, to look back, to see where you emerged, to mark the spot. But there is nothing there, no tunnel, no entrance, no passage, just a normal street, a normal wall, a normal part of the city. The tunnel is gone, returned to wherever it goes. When not needed, and you walk home, grateful, confused, changed, by the knowledge that the underground, the network, the tunnels beneath London, they care, in their own way, they help, in their own way, they bring people home, when they are lost, when they are needed, when the moment is right, through tunnels that should not exist, through paths that cannot be mapped, through passages that open and close. Like doors, like gifts, like mysteries, there is a sound that some people hear. In the underground, their name, called clearly, distinctly, from somewhere in the station. They turn, they look, they search, but there is no one there, no one who could have called, and they dismiss it. A mishearing, a similar word, a trick of acoustics. Until it happens again, their name, called again, from a different direction, and again, and again. Moving through the station, leading them. Some people follow, curious, drawn, trusting the voice, and they are led. Through corridors, down passages, to places they would not normally go, to quiet corners, to hidden spaces, to areas of the station they did not know existed, and there they find something different for each person, something they needed to find. For some, it is an object, something lost, something forgotten, something that has been waiting. For others, it is a person, someone they need to meet, someone who will change their life, someone who was meant to cross their path. And for some, it is simply a place, a quiet spot, a moment of peace, a refuge from the chaos above. The voice, it knew, it understood, it led them to what they needed. And then, the voice stops, the calling ends, they are left. With what they found, with what the voice gave them. But others, they do not follow, they hear their name, and they ignore it. They turn away, they leave the station, they dismiss the experience, and they wonder, for the rest of their lives, what would have happened if they had followed, if they had trusted, if they had gone where the voice led. What did they miss? What opportunity? What meeting? What moment? The voice called, and they did not answer. And the chance, whatever it was, is gone. The legend says the voice is a guide, a helper, an aspect of the underground that wants to assist. It appears when needed. It calls when there is something to find. It leads when there is somewhere to go. But it requires trust. It requires following. It requires belief that the voice, impossible as it seems, is real, is helpful, is worth trusting. And those who follow, those who trust, they find what they needed, what the voice knew they needed, even if they did not know themselves, even if they did not ask, even if they did not believe. The voice knew, and called, and led, to what was waiting, to what was meant to be, to what needed to happen. You are walking through a station, busy, crowded, loud, and you hear it, your name, called clearly, from somewhere in the noise. You turn, you look, but there is no one there, no one looking at you, no one who could have called. and you pause. Uncertain. Was it real? Was it imagination? Was it anything? And then, you hear it again. Your name. From a different direction, clearer, closer, and you feel it. A pull, an invitation, a call, to follow, to trust, to see where it leads, and you have a choice, to follow, or to ignore, to trust, or to dismiss. Do you follow the voice? Do you trust the call? Do you see where it leads? Or do you turn away and leave and wonder forever what you missed? The voice is calling, your name, leading you, somewhere. What do you do? Do you trust? Do you follow? Do you take the chance? Do you find what is waiting? Or do you walk away and wonder and never know? The choice is yours. The moment is now. The voice is calling. What do you choose? There is a platform that you cannot look at directly. You see it in the corner of your eye, through the window, as the train passes. A platform, lit, populated, real. But when you turn, when you look directly, it is gone. There is only tunnel wall, only darkness, only nothing. The platform exists, only in peripheral vision, only in the edges of sight, only in the glimpses between. People report this consistently. The same location, the same stretch of tunnel, the same fleeting vision. A platform. That should not be there. That is not on any map. That appears only when not directly observed. The legend says this is a quantum platform, a place that exists in probability, in potential, in the spaces between observation. When you look directly, when you focus, when you observe, the probability collapses, the platform ceases, the possibility vanishes. But in the periphery, in the glimpses, in the moments when your attention is elsewhere, the platform exists, real, solid, occupied, by people who exist in the same state, in the same probability, in the same edges of reality, passengers who board trains you cannot quite see, who travel routes you cannot quite map, who exist in the underground that lives in peripheral vision. A parallel system, a shadow network, a version of the underground that runs alongside the one you know, but separate, but different, but accessible only in glimpses. Some people try to photograph it, to capture the platform, to prove it exists. But cameras, like direct observation, collapse the probability. The photographs show nothing, just tunnel walls, just darkness, just the normal underground. The platform only exists when not directly seen, when not directly recorded, when allowed to remain in the edges, in the periphery, in the maybe. The legend says that if you could, somehow, board that platform, step into that space, enter that peripheral world, you would find an entirely different underground, a network that branches in different directions, that serves different destinations, that connects to places that do not exist in direct observation, a city in the periphery, a London in the edges, a world that exists only in glimpses, and the people there. They see you, in their periphery, in their glimpses, in their edges, a figure on a train, a face in a window, a person who appears only when they are not looking directly. Two worlds, two networks, two versions of the underground, existing alongside each other, separated by observation, by focus, by the act of looking directly, connected only in glimpses, in periphery, in the moments between attention, forever parallel, forever separate, forever glimpsed, but never fully seen. You are riding a train, looking out the window, not really focusing, just watching the tunnel pass, and you see it, in your peripheral vision, a platform, lit, real, people standing on it. And you turn, to look directly, to see it clearly, to confirm what you saw, and it is gone. Just tunnel wall, just darkness, just nothing. You turn back, you look away, you let your vision blur again, and there, in the periphery. The platform returns. People waiting. A sign you cannot quite read. A space that exists, but only when you are not looking. Only when you let it be. Only in the edges of sight. And you watch. Without watching. You see. Without seeing. You observe. Without observing. The platform in peripheral vision. The world in the edges. The underground that exists. Only in glimpses. And you wonder, what would happen? If you could board that platform, if you could enter that space, if you could live in the periphery, what would you find? What would you see? What would you become? A person in the edges. A figure in the glimpses. A passenger on trains that exist. Only in peripheral vision. Forever glimpsed, but never fully seen. Forever there, but never quite real. In the underground that lives in the corners of your eyes. In the network that branches in unseen directions. In the city that exists only when you are not looking directly. There is a train. The last train. The final service of the night. It travels to the end of the line. To the terminal station, where all journeys complete. But some passengers, they do not get off. They stay on the train, as it sits in the station, as the driver exits, as the lights dim, and the train, it continues, beyond the terminal, into tunnels that are not on any map, to stations that do not exist, to places that have no names. The end of the line. It is not the end. It is a beginning, a transition. A crossing. The train continues, into the deep places, into the old places, into the spaces beneath the underground, where the original tunnels still exist, where the ancient passages still wind, where London's oldest secrets still hide, and the passengers who stay, who ride past the terminal, who continue beyond the end. They see things, the real underground, the true network, the system that existed before and will exist after. They see stations from other times, platforms from other cities, tunnels that connect to places that should not be connected. They see the infrastructure of reality, the network that underlies everything, the system that connects all places, all times, all possibilities, the underground in its truest form, not a transportation system, but a structure, a framework, a web, that holds the world together. That connects everything, that makes reality possible, and at the very end, at the final station, at the true terminal, they arrive, and they must choose, to get off, to enter, to cross over, or to stay on the train, to ride back, to return to the normal world. Those who get off, those who enter the final station, they do not return. They have crossed, to wherever that station leads, to whatever lies beyond the network, to the place where all journeys end, and perhaps where all journeys begin. Those who stay on the train, they ride back, through the hidden stations, through the ancient tunnels, through the spaces beneath, until they emerge, at the terminal, the normal terminal, the one on the maps, and they exit, and they return to their lives, changed, knowing, carrying the memory of riding past the end of the line, of seeing the true underground, of reaching the final station, and choosing to return, for now. But the memory remains, the knowledge remains, the certainty remains, that someday, on some last train, on some final journey, they will ride to the end again, and this time, they will get off, they will enter the final station, they will cross over, to wherever the end of the line truly leads, to whatever waits beyond the network, to the place where all journeys, finally, complete. You are on the last train, the final service, riding to the end of the line. The train reaches the terminal. The driver exits. The other passengers leave. But you stay. You remain in your seat. You wait, and the train, after a moment, continues, beyond the terminal, into tunnels you have never seen, and you ride. Through darkness. Through stations that do not exist. Through a network beneath the network, and you see the true underground, the real system, the ancient passages, and you feel fear, wonder, awe, understanding. This is what lies beneath. This is what the underground truly is. This is where all journeys really lead, and the train continues, deeper, further, into the final places, until it stops at a platform unlike any other, the final station, the true end of the line, and the doors open, and you must choose to exit, to enter, to cross over, or to stay, to ride back, to return. What do you choose? Do you get off? Do you enter the final station? Do you complete the journey? Or do you stay and ride back and live with the knowledge of what you saw, of where you went, of what lies at the end of the line? The choice is yours. The moment is now. The final station is here. What do? You are tired. The journey has been long. The stations have passed. The stories have unfolded. And now, you find yourself at the end of this particular journey. The train is slowing. The platform is approaching. Your stop is here. You gather your things. You stand. You move toward the doors. And as you step onto the platform, as you begin to climb toward the surface, toward the world above, you carry with you the legends, the stories, the mysteries of the London Underground. They are with you now, in your memory, in your imagination, in the edges of your perception, and perhaps, just perhaps, on some future journey, on some late-night train, on some quiet platform, you will see something, hear something, feel something that reminds you that the underground is more than transportation. More than tunnels, more than trains. It is a place of mystery, of legend, of stories that refuse to fade, a network that connects, not just places, but times, lives, possibilities, the forgotten legends, the hidden stories, the mysteries that live in the dark. They are still there, waiting in the stations, in the tunnels, in the spaces between, for the next traveler, the next listener, the next person who is willing to descend, to ride, to believe that beneath London, beneath the city, beneath everything, there is another world, a hidden network, a place where the impossible becomes real, where trains run backwards, where time stops, where voices call your name, where the underground, in all its mystery, in all its age, in all its strangeness, is alive, is aware, is waiting for you. Sleep well, dream deep, and remember. The legends of the London Underground are always there, always waiting, always true, in their own way, in the dark, beneath the city, forever.